let's start with the NFL. And we talked about it last week. There were rumblings, kind of like, little droplets, if you will, of reports where people were saying, hey, maybe the Cowboys won't give Dak the big extension. The reports, Rob, remember, about a month or two ago that Dak wanted $60 million. They were feeling themselves. Even though they went out meekly in the playoffs, I guess Dak and his crew thought they had all the leverage, and they're saying $60 million. Yeah, we want to set the market, $60 million. And now, reportedly, there is an official report or something with more substance behind it, Rob, and that is coming from Ian Rappaport. And he says that both sides now understand that Dak Prescott will not get the long-term lucrative extension. If this is true, then Dak and Mike McCarthy, we talked about his coaching staff, Rob, Mike Zimmer, who's the new defensive coordinator, got a one-year deal. Think about that. A new job? I get McCarthy being on the last year of his deal. You hired somebody for 1 year. So clearly, Rob, a prove-it year. And doesn't mean they're totally done with Dak Prescott if they don't win the Super Bowl or go deep. But certainly they're saying, let's see what you got this year before we pony up $60 million a year in a long-term deal. So, Rob, what are your thoughts?
I'm a little shocked because the Cowboys have been doing it wrong so often, Chris. They always get it wrong. And I think finally, if you're a Cowboys fan, you got to feel good about this. Now Jerry might cave, Chris, at the last. If he doesn't cave, I'm talking about because Jerry's known to cave.
And this could be some type. I mean, they do say it's mutual, but it could be some type of, throwing it out there to the media.
Right. You know what I'm saying.
What people think and all that. Yeah.
But if this is ironclad and this is what's going to happen, then Jerry Jones, the Cowboys organization, should be applauded. Because I told you before, Chris, I would not give him $60 million. I'm tired of looking at these guys where they're getting paid for the position rather than the person. And that's what Dak would have been. Not that he didn't deserve a contract or, the going rate, but he should be a higher paid quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. No, I don't care when Patrick signed his contract, Chris. He could have signed it 4 years ago.
Because they keep redoing it.
Right. I still wouldn't think that Dak deserves it. And he wet the bed in the playoff game. He's got a terrible playoff record. And this has happened over and over. And let the guy earn it. If he leads you to something, Chris, you get to the NFC Championship game for the first time since, 95 or 96, whatever it is, then sign the guy. Let's see. But I wouldn't do it. Make him prove it. And then you got McCarthy on a short leash. You have Dak on a short leash. And guess what? Things don't happen, Chris. Make some moves. So I love this all the way up and down. This is a prove me contract for Dak. I think he does need to prove that he's worthy of such a deal. I don't care what the ramifications are. We saw what Denver did with Wilson. I mean, they just said, we don't care. We don't care what the damage is to our salary. We don't care. We're just not going to go that route. And in this case, I think the Cowboys are making the right move.
Yeah, and look, obviously, and I'm sure you agree with this, Dak Prescott is playing better right now than Russell Wilson. So
I'll give you that
situation.
But Russ has won big games and Dak has.
Yeah, but in the past, I mean, he's 35 now, and we'll see this year in Pittsburgh how much he's got left. But I think that's different. It's a different type of situation from that. I do think Dak is a franchise quarterback, Rob. I think he's proven. I think he played well last year. Now, he wet the bed, as you say, in the playoffs. There's no doubt. He wasn't the only one. Micah didn't make an impact. I mean, their whole defense was a joke. I mean, they all were bad in the playoffs. But he did have a very good season, arguably his best ever. And I think, like I said, he's a franchise quarterback. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm not ready to move on from Dak. But from a financial perspective, Rob, I think, and maybe even from an inspirational or motivational aspect, I get it. You and I have always said, you know what? If you know you want a guy, you might as well pay him now because it's only going to get more expensive.
It doesn't go down. The price doesn't go down, right?
Well, but I think that could be changing, and that's why I agree with what the Cowboys are looking at doing here because, Rob, Dak reportedly wanted $60 million, right? So let's say a 5-year, $300 million deal is what he was eyeing. 4 years, what would that be? 240 or something to that effect. If let's say, Rob, and I think this is very realistic, let's say the Cowboys go out next year, get to the second round, get beat. Dak's okay. He's fine. He's not as bad as he was this year in the playoff game, but, he doesn't lift them. They lose. If he's a free agent, Rob, do you think even one team is offering him $60 million a year?
No.
Right. And that's where look, Kirk Cousins, who, while he's not viewed as good as Dak Prescott is, I think they're very close. I think Dak might be a little better, maybe. But, he's viewed as being a slightly higher level quarterback than Kirk Cousins. But Kirk Cousins, Rob, and I get he's coming off injuries, a little older. Rob, he got $45 million this year. So I think if Dak, under the scenario I painted, second round exit, he plays fine. I think if he enters the market next year, Rob, is he getting offered $52 million-ish annually? And I think the Cowboys see that. And I think they're saying, you know what, if he plays well, if we don't see anything from Trey Lance in practice or any other option out there, we'll go that route. And heck, if he leads us to the Super Bowl or really close, then we'll up him. We'll re-up him for sure.
Or he bottoms out and doesn't play well. You know what I mean?
If he plays poorly, you're right. Then maybe they'll let him go. But you see what I'm saying? I don't think Dak's when Lamar Jackson was free, who's better than Dak, obviously. Rob, teams weren't willing, and I think some of them made mistakes, the Jets and teams like that.
Yeah, but I think there was collusion there.
Whatever. They weren't willing to break the bank for him. And I certainly don't think they're going to be willing to do that for Dak Prescott. So I think even, Rob, from a financial perspective, because I would want to keep Dak, but I think financially it could make more sense for them to just, see what the market bears. And depending on how he plays this year, you'll either pay him market value, but I think the market value will be less than what he reportedly is asking for. So I think it works out for them in that regard.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Dak fan. I think he's I talk about it all the time. He's the known. I'm not afraid of the unknown sometimes, and he's going to have to prove to me that he can get them there. I'm just not convinced. It's not like he's been in. I think he's been in 8 playoff games for the Cowboys.
He's 2 and 5.
7 playoff games. Yeah, that's a lot of that's a good sample size. That's not a corner of a sandwich. That's a sandwich. You know what I mean?
No, it is. And my view, Rob, is, we talked about this on First Things First the other day. Do I think Dak's going to win a Super Bowl within the next 5 years? I said no. Now, I'm not saying he can't, but I said no. Some people might say, well, then get rid of him. Let him go. This is 1 year, and then you let him go. I'm of the perspective that, you know what? There's a value to being relevant. There's a value to being in the mix every year. It's painful in the moment, Rob, when you keep getting beat midway or deep into the playoffs. But there's still a value there. It's a business. Every team doesn't win. Rob.
Not for Jerry Jones.
Would the Utah Jazz die to go back to the Malone Stockton era? Yes,
of
even
course,
though they never won it.
But the difference here, Chris, and I hear you about being relevant.
You get what I'm saying.
But Jerry Jones is in a different place.
He's all talk.
Jerry Jones is in a different place.
If he really was about that, he'd make some changes, Rob. If he really wanted Super Bowl over anything else, he'd start shutting his mouth. I really believe that. He runs his mouth too much. He is more, his goal is to make the Cowboys valuable, which he's done very well, to have the spotlight on him, be the face of the franchise, talk and be popular and be talked about, him and the Cowboys on all the talk shows. And that's what he's done. I think he wants a Super Bowl, of course, but I think it's secondary to his ego. Personally, that's my personal view.
Yeah, I still think he wants one. And at some point, I mean, I don't know how much time the clock is ticking. It's loud. It's loud. I don't know what Jerry's doing.
You ain't got to go that far, man.
I'm sorry.
Just leave it at one loud.
Okay, it's loud.
You had to be
I can't even
emphasizing.
I can't
loud.
even sleep at night. It's so loud. It's keeping me up at night.